Michael Carnevale is Branch Manager and Financial Advisor. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, 400 Southbridge Street in Auburn, Massachusetts, 1-800-657-9126. A member of FINRA SIPC and are not deposits, not insured by FDIC or any governmental agency, not guaranteed by Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank, and subject to risk, may lose value. Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank is not affiliated with Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated. The information contained in this report does not purport to be a complete description of the securities markets or developments referred to in the material. The information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that the foregoing material is accurate or complete. Any information is not a complete summary or statement of all available data necessary for making an investment decision and does not constitute a recommendation. Any opinions are those of Michael Carnevale and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Richard Morco, and we have with us Mike Carnevale, our conversations with, where he's going to tell us where we are in this economy as of the end of last month, but as we had some weather problems, we didn't get to be here last Thursday, so this is the Thursday show of the April Conversations with. Mike, good to see you.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so how's the economy this month?
March.
March.
Everything continues to roll smoothly. March saw the market up over 2%. It's up almost 6% for the year. During the month of March, we had 3 all-time closing highs for the Dow, including the last day. And that's important because that's the day customer statements get printed. So that's the most important day of the month. And it was the 4th March that was up.
The fourth
The
March.
last 4 Marches have been up.
Now, is March a historically up month, or is it on, off?
It's sort of like in the middle.
In the middle.
I think it's like 5th or 6th. April, the month we're into right now, is historically the best month of the year. We're going to need that because it hasn't started off that way.
So things are swimming along
Pretty
right
good.
now.
April is really a good month. I mean, the last 18 Aprils, 16 of them have been positive. So even though we got off to a rough start the first week in April, we still got 3 weeks to go and history's on our side, so.
And history was fairly good to March, is what you
Yeah,
said.
it was.
Yep. So, and year to date it was up, and 5.6
For the year.
for the year. That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
3 all-time highs during the month, including the last day. And then what was that? The Dow up?
Dow.
Dow. Okay.
Yeah. The NASDAQ and S&P have done better
Than the
than the
Dow.
Dow. Yeah.
Okay. Bonds.
Rates fell a little bit.
13-week Treasury remains
About the same.
Yield curve is still inverted. Now, historically, the yield curve inversion, isn't that supposed to be a bad sign?
Yeah, that's a sign that, people think, the economy is not going to be doing pretty too good.
When you say people, do you mean the guy who's parking cars?
Yeah.
Or do you mean the guy at the Harvard School of Economics or whatever?
Probably both.
Both?
Yeah.
Really? Did
But-
they talk to each other?
Yeah. I need my car. Here's my car. I'm going to be leaving it too.
I
So.
see the guy who's parking cars out here, not
Yes.
the one down in Harvard Square.
Oh, the one down in Harvard Square? No, they're probably not.
Yeah, right,
Not. But the positive, we always want to try to find the positive. The positive in the yield, slope of the yield curve is that the negative number is getting smaller and smaller. So it's kind of moving in the right direction.
So the bad sign is getting less bad.
Correct.
I love those technical terms.
Yeah.
That's the type of guy I am.
Yeah.
All right. So the technicals.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure if the market has done as well as it has, and it's been up 5 months in a row, that the technical indicators would be kind of weak, and they are. I mean, of the four, probably the most ominous one is the volatility index, that it's at lows that were last seen in 2020 and in 2022. Both of those times were right before the market dropped, pretty significantly, 15% and more.
So you're not seeing this signifying of market drop, are you?
Probably not, because some of the other indicators kind of offset, but that volatility index, as low as it is, so you look back and say, okay, geez, you say to yourself, geez, I don't remember ever this low. Let me see when it was this low before. And it was in 2020 and 2022, right before the market had a pretty good drop, 15% or more. 2022, the market was down over 20%. And the volatility index was right about at this level at that time. So that's something to be a little concerned about. What it's saying is there's not a lot of fear in the stock market. And when are people not afraid? When everything's going great. They looked at the end of March's statement, right? We said all-time high. Everything's going great. Oh, my 401k, this, you hear these things. Oh, I made so much money in my stocks. No fear at all. And that's reflected in that volatility index being low. That usually happens, at least historically, at a peak rather than midway up or at the bottom. So that is something to be aware of.
At the bottom, what's the point?
Correct.
I mean,
that's when that volatility index is like 30, 35.
well, I don't know who said it. Maybe it was Isaac Newton. But historically, what goes up eventually comes down.
Yeah, that's true.
But even with a bad VIX, you would probably say, yeah, but we'll bounce up again. But at what point?
Correct. Right.
We hope it's not another 2008.
Correct. The 2008, 2009, or even we don't even want to see another 2022 when the market, drop, 25%.
Well, we had those banks, like what was it, the bank out west?
Silicon Valley and
these are not small banks, but they had to be rescued by people. Why didn't that have a snowball effect? We seem to have just blown right by that.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it did have a little bit of a snowball effect. The bank that took a lot of the Silicon Valley and Signature Bank stuff, New York Community Bank.
Yeah, that's now.
That's now, but it's taken a year, and now they're in a little bit of trouble. They seem to have, that news has quieted down the last couple of weeks. But
I heard today they're offering them really big.
They're offering the highest savings rate in the country, 5.55% online. Well, that tells you something, right? That, they obviously need the money.
Yeah.
So that's
Did you open
negative.
an account? Did you open an account with them?
No.
All right, Drew, we're going to close our accounts.
Okay.
I did not. That's if you can get through to close it. It's
You do that online.
Shall I say, banks are notorious for opening accounts. They don't let you close them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You're the business to say nice things about the financial industry.
There's someone who's running the ad, and I don't know who, but open an account in as little as 5 minutes. They don't tell you how long it takes to close it, though.
You'll have to go to our Zurich
I think
branch.
I think that was Needham Bank, if we want to be full disclosure. Open a bank in as little as, open an account in just 5 minutes. And they don't tell you how long it's going to take you to close it, though.
Okay, any of these other ones, now, did you say they're not as bad? Is there any one of the other technicals you want to?
No, I think the other three technical indicators, they're worse than they were a month ago, but you would expect them to be after the market has gone up again, but none to the extent that the volatility index is.
Okay.
So if you're looking at these like 4 indicators and you look at them over and you say, wow, one of them really sticks out, and that's the volatility index.
Okay. Now, Mr. Powell is always in the news,
Uh-huh.
and he spoke before Congress.
Yeah, he had to go before Congress, which he's required to do twice a year.
And he said rates will come down this year. Inflation has gotten better. Economy is good. Since he said that, what's happened? We can go to get into that later.
Yeah, rates have gone up a little bit. The rate of inflation has increased, 0.1%. I think it's a lot of overkill, but
So what is the rate of inflation?
I think it was like 3.6, and they were expecting 3.5 for the year. I mean, it was.
So it's not, you're doing a victory dance over 1%, but there's still a heavy rate of inflation there.
Oh yeah, much higher than the Fed wants it to be.
But people in the news, other than us, did a little victory dance on that.
Right, because the rate of increase has been falling. But you're never going to see it. I mean, unless you go into a depression, you're never going to see falling prices.
Now, you're not going to see them, but I mean that's still a hefty rate for annual.
It is, yeah. It's almost twice what the Fed wants it to be.
Yeah. Okay, so Powell speaks and says inflation's gotten better. He says the economy is good.
Yep.
The Fed voted to keep the Fed funds rate at 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Still think there'll be? Does he really think there'll be 3 cuts this year?
Well, you started off the first of the year, there were people who were saying there was going to be 3 to 6 cuts. Then it went down to 3. Then it went down to 2. Now there's some people thinking there may only be 1 cut this year. So it's definitely moving into less rate cuts than more.
So happy days are not completely here again.
The outlook looked a lot better a month or so ago than it does now. You had the rate of inflation coming down. All the other stuff was doing good. Now you have all the other stuff still doing good, but the rate of inflation has started to move up again. And so, a lot was being placed on, interest rates have peaked. They're going to cut them 3, 4, 5 times this year. Now it's more, rates have peaked, but they may not be cutting them 3 or 4 or 5 times this year. So that does change. That can change, the outlook. It can push out the good times further.
Why are we not surprised?
I think this is a little bit of a surprise.
Really?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think it's, but I think, I think we tend to be in a world where everyone looks at extremes. It wasn't good enough to say interest rates have peaked, and the Fed's going to cut them a couple of times. You had people saying, they're going to cut them 6 times in a year, which they meet every 6 weeks. So that means they would have to cut rates almost every meeting.
Who is the fan club for the cuts out there?
Oh,
The Wall Street Journal?
I think, economists at various organizations, at various banks, at various institutions were saying, oh yeah, rates have peaked and now we're gonna, you know,
And now it's down to 1.
yeah, maybe 1, maybe
So
2.
why do those people still have their jobs?
Same reason people who tell you what the temperature is going to be tomorrow still have theirs.
Who do
not
you-
an exact
Whoa, wait a minute.
science.
Who do you trust more? The guys who said six cuts, or the guy who tells you we're going to have a range of a temperature tomorrow that's like this?
I think right now they're neck and neck. I don't know how many times this winter we've heard, oh, this is going to, you know, and then this is going to be bad. And then, you know, ignore what you see out your window. It's going to be bad.
Okay.
Then it becomes, well, let me tell you what happened.
Well, I think we probably agree that the meteorologists have a little more scientific method on their side than the alchemists at the banks and economic departments.
Yeah, well, one is not an exact science.
Which one is not an exact science?
That would be economics.
Yes.
You know,
You know what Mark Twain's old saying was.
go ahead.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not jumping out of windows quite right.
No.
Quite yet. All right. Unemployment forecast 4%.
Yep, the Fed's looking now for unemployment to be 4. This past month, we'll see in a minute that it actually went down to 3.6.
We're going to talk about that.
Yep.
We already talked about it. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. Interest rates and other banks around the world. No change from the Bank of England. Canada, European Central Bank, they didn't change either.
Correct.
Egypt, Japan. I don't know why they mentioned those two together. Their economies are really different.
Well, those were the two banks that, two of the banks anyways, that raised rates. Japan was significant because they were the last country to have negative interest rates. So they ended that.
Okay. So what is the Japanese if it's not a negative rate?
0.
It's now 0.
0. Yeah.
And Egypt's is?
I didn't have that put down, so I don't know.
It doesn't really matter.
But I'm going to say it's higher than 0. You know.
And Nigeria raised by 2% to 24.75.
Yeah, that's kind of hidden behind Turkey, as Turkey's the one that does the crazy things and has the wild inflation, but Nigeria is right behind.
Well, the inflation of moderate 32%. Swiss cut.
They were the first bank to in this latest rate cycle to cut rates.
And Mexico cut rates.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And let's ring the bell here. Turkey raised rate from 45% to 50%.
Yep.
Inflation currently at 67%.
So
I don't get this.
Yeah, they're making no progress.
I don't get this.
No.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
How does your average Turk afford lunch? You know?
Yeah, I mean, how do you survive when 1 minute the rate is 45% and the next morning it's 50?
Yeah.
And your inflation's even higher.
You know, and you know, I'm kind of a whiner and complainer here, and I'm looking at that and those poor people.
Yeah, yeah.
Oil.
That's
Now-
started to go up again.
It goes up again, and you know what? That's where the rubber meets the road, because where does your average Joe, maybe once, twice, depending on how much he drives, 3 times a week, where does he see the economy, the changes in the economy?
Right.
At the pump.
At the pump and grocery store
So,
and prescriptions.
yeah, so we can talk about Brent, we can talk West Texas Intermediate, but this is where at the pump is where
Yeah.
our fellow citizens and ourselves see this most glaringly.
Yep.
All right, production fell from 13.3 up to
Yeah, which was an all-time high. 13.3 million barrels a day was an all-time high, so it dropped a little bit.
All right, Red Sox.
Well, now the science.
This is
Comes in.
This is forget meteorology. Forget
20 minutes in,
forget
we
the-
get to the important stuff.
Forget the economic department.
Correct.
At your Ivy and this is it.
Correct.
All right, Red Sox opened March 28th versus Seattle. Every year, the first game was with Seattle, 97, 98, 07. The market was higher for the year, an average of 15%. So, you know, ladies and gentlemen, if you feel it's time to take the plunge into the stock market, it's right here.
Says it right there.
Do you think anybody's listening to us?
Well, you know, funny when you say that. So, the answer, I'm not going to give you the answer, but there's 2 letters in it, in the answer. But as good as any other of these indicators, I say. You know, I mean, I wouldn't pin my hope on any one indicator, no matter what it is, right?
Oh, I was worried about that fix. Yeah.
It's a collection of stuff.
Okay, all right. And then we get down to the economy section here.
Okay, so inflation we know ticked up a little bit.
A little bit.
Leading economic indicators, first gain in almost 2 years of monthly results. So that leading economic indicator, which is the recession indicator, had been negative for 23 months in a row, was up 0.1% for the month of February.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb
Okay.
because this thing has been a downer while the economy is supposedly swimming.
Mm-hmm.
So, wouldn't you say this would be sort of an indicator of a possible bump?
Could be.
Oh, come on.
You'll know-
Come
we'll-
on. Be
we'll-
brave, guy. Take a stand.
We'll see what I would say yes if we see that the March number is back negative. Then it was a fluke. But as far as what we know, okay, the negative monthly numbers have ended. Does that mean it's clear sailing? No, because you got to see the next couple. But if March is positive and then we go into April and that's positive, then yeah, it probably has, that indicator probably has bottomed out and would signal odds are better times ahead. Now, if March is another back to negative, then yeah, you would
Maybe
say.
in April back to negative.
No, because this one was
Okay,
February.
this was February.
There's always a one, on this indicator, there's a 1 month
Okay,
lag.
All right. Okay,
So
gotcha.
if the March number is negative, well, then you'd say, yeah, it looks like the February one was a fluke. But you don't know yet.
Okay.
There are a couple of things that would lead you to think it was a fluke, because we know what the 10 components of the index are, right? So we know the stock market was positive. That's going to be positive. We know jobless claims, they had a couple of upticks in the months. That might be a negative. We know inflation the rate started to increase. That's likely another negative. So you know there's 2 or 3 of the 10 components that if you were betting, you'd bet negative. So there is a chance that March could be a negative, which would tell us February was just a fluke.
Well done. I mean, we'll know next month. And,
We'll
you
know next month. Yeah.
We can save the video of this. And if it works out, it works out. What can
Yeah.
you say? We'll have to say that you got to go back to the economics department, get your professorate. Very good. All right. The jobless claims.
That's another indication that at least historically, is good. You know, you take a look at how many people lose their jobs. Generally, it takes 250,000 or more layoffs per week to start to hurt the economy. We are nowhere near that and haven't been. Last week's number was 210,000. Compared to a year ago, the year ago number was 232,000. And over the last 4 weeks, the average has been at 211,000. So nowhere near the level of layoffs that would hurt the economy, at least based on the historic nature. The other thing too, long-term unemployment was 1.7 million a year ago, and it's 1.8 million today.
No, it's
You know,
people who just gave it up.
some people have given up, and they're not included in this number. But so jobless claims are not signaling, you know, bad news, and they're a long way away from signaling that. The difference between 210,000 a week and the 250,000, that's quite a bit.
That is.
So I
will give
mean,
you
that's probably a good sign, and that transitions to the employment report, which was in February, probably too good.
We're
Which,
going to get, let's go through this first, and we'll say how bad or good it is.
yeah, and I say probably too good because we now see inflation has started to tick up again. So in February, there were 275,000 non-farm jobs created. Historically, the economy needs 150,000. So you had almost double what was needed. It was the 38th straight month of job gain. And the size of the labor force, that's the number of people looking for work, increased, gained basically all of what it, in February, what it lost in January. And so it was probably too good, which would lead into the potential resurging of inflation. Because people become less history at least shows, people become less price sensitive when they're working or when their wages are going up. And that may be starting again.
So that, you know, I earlier, before the show, I presented Mike with a sheet of paper that demurs from the rosy scenario that he's painted, and it's basically saying, and it's from basically a libertarian website on the economy, so you can say how that colors something, but it basically said all the job gains were for part-time jobs or for and also went to illegal migrants. Now this is the website is Zero Hedge. It is libertarian and skeptical about orthodox pronouncements on the economy, so you can take that for what it's worth. But the economic reports that you gave do not break out unemployment by whether it's part-time or full-time, does it?
It does, actually.
It does.
Yeah.
And can you with
The actual,
yeah,
the employment report that gets issued every month is like 40 pages long. And it breaks it all down by educational background, age background, and I don't include them in this brief summary, if I can remember. I think unemployment rose last month in all categories except people who had a high school diploma or less. So people who had associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, or
dropped
higher,
out of kindergarten.
or higher,
They got hit.
their unemployment went up.
Okay, early childhood education dropouts They gained.
They gained. Their unemployment rate went down.
Okay.
The other thing was,
But that would be that would signify probably gains a part-time job. Or
it could,
part-time.
it could. But when they say all, that's, I mean, really all? That's pretty, that's hard to believe.
Virtually all.
Yeah, I don't,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, it could be, but I don't, it's the first I've heard of that, of anyone saying that.
Was one guy who they gave him a job and insisted he work 80 hours a week, which is more than well more than part. No, seriously, I mean, I think you have to think of, that has to be thought about, you know. I mean, I know the news doesn't break it out, you know, on regular news. Even,
Right.
Even
Right.
Bloomberg or
No,
CNBC.
no, you have to look at
So,
the report
that
put
is
out
an-
by the
that is
Bureau of Labor
important.
Statistics, right?
That is important. But if it is mostly part-time, that's not good.
Well,
And speaking of not good, the time has flown. And thus, when Mike was about to just crush me with something, I called time. What a cheat I am. I apologize, Mike. You have a
stay tuned then.
Stay tuned for next month when Mike Carnevale joins Richard Morco and Conversations with.